Welcome. We'll be looking at SQL joins in this session. In SQL, we have inner joins, outer joins, and cross joins, but we'll be particularly focusing on inner joins and outer joins for this session. Alright, I have a Venn diagram here for inner join. So normally inner join returns only those records that are matching in both tables. So that is the intersection between two tables. So if you are joining two tables and then you are using inner join, it means it's going to bring you the intersection between the tables. So it means any record that will be returned will have what? A corresponding record in the other table. So if we have what? A record in what? Table 1, it should have what? A corresponding record in table 2 to be returned in this particular what? Command. Okay, we have the general syntax here, so that is select all. Yeah, but it doesn't mean you always have to select all, so you can select specific columns. Okay, yeah, so select what? All from table 1, inner join table 2 on, yeah, table 1 dot column 1 equal to table 2 dot column 2. So you should notice that there should be a particular column that is common to both tables before you can create a join between those two tables. Or in other words, there should be a foreign key, yeah, such that we can stand on that foreign key and establish that join between those two tables. Okay, so that is a general syntax. So I want us to go to the workbench and then try to implement this particular syntax such that it can become clearer to you. Alright. Okay, I have my workbench here. I'm going to create a new connection for SQL joins. So I'm simply calling it SQL joins. Okay, so now we can dive into the SQL joins connection, and this is it. Okay, so let me zoom out a bit. Alright, so I have some questions here as well. Yeah, there are 4 questions. Yeah, and I want us to use the HR sample database we've been using for some time now to answer this question. Yeah, so the first question is asking us to generate a report of all employees and their dependents in XYZ company. Include employee contact information. Yeah, so the HR sample database will be using in this particular practical or demonstration, we'll be calling it the XYZ company HR database. Okay. All right, so let's get to the workbench and we can open the HR sample script. So I'll put a link in the description below so that you can obtain the HR sample scripts. Okay, so let's go to File, Open SQL Scripts. Yeah, then you have to browse to the location where you keep those files. Yeah, and they are in text, so you have to show all files from here before you can see them. And normally we'll execute the tables first. Okay, so let me zoom it out a bit, and I'll just put some piece of code here. So drop database if exists. Yeah, saying that we can always recreate the database again and again. Alright, so I'm going to call it XYZ. XYZ company. Alright, so I'm going to use the same name for the first line. Yeah. Okay, then we'll have to modify line 3 as well with a new name, that is XYZ company. Okay, So now we can execute the entire script using the execution button here. Okay, so that was going to take some few seconds. All right, it's done. So now we'll go for our HR data. So open SQL script, show all files, then we'll show what the HR data. Okay, so I'm going to execute the entire script. All right, so that is also running. Let's wait for it. Okay, so it's done, and then I'm going to begin to answer the question. So I'll pick the first question and I'll comment it out and then write the code below it. Okay, so this is the question. Let me comment it out. Okay, so you can either use what the double hash tag to comment it, or you can do the block comments. Okay, yeah, for so if you use the double hash tag, it's only going to comment it in a line. Yeah, but you can see that my code is taking more than one line, so I may want to use what the block comment, the backslash. Okay, so this is going to comment it as well. All right, now we have the question, and then we have our database. It is active. Yeah, let me refresh that. You can see our XYZ company database is active, and then we've entered our data. So the next thing is for us to answer the questions here. Yeah, and we are asked to generate a report of all employees and their dependents in XYZ company. We should include employee contact information. Okay, so when you look at this question, it's requiring us to join two tables, employees and then dependents. So let's look at the tables first to give us an idea of the tables we are dealing with. So let's say show tables. This is going to show us all the tables in the XYZ company database. Okay, so these are the tables we have. We have countries, departments, dependents, and employees. So you can see that the two tables in questions are here already. We have the dependents table, and then we also have the employees table. So let me just turn off the output so that we'll have more space for our code. All right. Now we want to look at all the records in the employees tables and then the dependents table. So select all from employees all right, so this will return all the records in the employees table. So this is it. I'm going to save this, and then let's select all from from dependents. All right, so this is the dependents table as well. Okay, so now we have those two tables, and then we can switch from one table to the other. Okay, and if you look at the question, they are asking us to generate a report of all employees. So all employees here, they are referring to employee names, okay, and their dependents. Okay, so the employees names and then their dependent names, and then we should also include the employee contact information. So that is it. So I'm going to answer it in a couple of ways. So we'll start by selecting. Yeah, so we'll select employees because we are joining two tables, this time anytime you are what calling a particular column or selecting a particular column, you have to what indicate the table before you what bring the name of the column. So let's start with the employees. So employees dot first name. If you don't indicate the table, the table, the column is in before you what call the name of the column, the database engine wouldn't what understand it. Okay, so when there are two tables involved, they want you to be specific. So this particular first name is what inside what employees table. That is what it means. So select employees dot first name, employees dot last name, and then also they are asking us to indicate the employee contact. Okay, then we can say that so the employee contact is phone number. So employee dot phone number. Okay, now we've what selected all the fields we are interested in the employees table. Now we have to move to what the dependents table and do the same for what the dependent name. Okay, all right, so let me show the dependents table here. So this is the table we are dealing with. So dependent first name, last name, and probably we should add what the relationship. Okay, so let me just continue from the next line. So but before that there should be a comma. The field name should be separated by commas. So now we have what dependents dot first name. Then we also have what dependents dot last name. Then we also have what dependents dot relationship. Okay, all right, so now we've selected all our what fields, and then let me push this one down so that it wouldn't be interfering. Okay, all right, so we have to indicate the table we are selecting from. You know, we are dealing with two tables here. So the first thing we'll do is to what to indicate the first table, which is what the employees table. So we'll say what from employees. So from employees, then we'll make the join. Okay, so let's call the join function here. So inner join, so inner join, then we'll call the name of the second table we are joining to, that is dependents. So employee inner join dependents. So inner join dependents, and then we have to indicate the field on which we are making the join. So on which field? So we'll say what employees dots employee. Okay, so let's look at the two tables. So we have what employee ID in what the dependents table, and then we also have what employee ID in the employees table. So that is the foreign key. So we can join these two tables on what employee ID. So we'll say employee dot what employee ID, and that should be equal to what dependents dot employee ID. So remember, employee ID is found in what? Both tables. So dependent dot employee ID. Okay, so this is it. Let's execute it. So let me just bring this one down here, so that we can have a full view of the code. So select employees dot first name, employees dot last name, employees dot phone number, dependent dot first name, dependent dot last name, dependent dot relationship from employees. Inner joint dependent on employees dot employee ID equal to dependent dot employee ID. So this is the code. Let's execute it. Okay, so we should check the names of some of our columns. So dependents, okay, so dependent dot relationship, let's check it. Okay, so we just have to be critical about the naming. So I think that is resolved now. Let's execute it once more. Okay, so we have what unknown column called dependent dot relationship. So you see the relationship, we didn't bring the H. Okay, so that was a problem. So let's execute it once more. Okay, so now this is a new table we have. So maybe I should use a magnifier here so that I can project the table much better. Okay, so now this is the new table we generated, and then you can see we have what first name, last name, phone number, first name, last name, and relationship. So it's a bit ambiguous because you can see that I mean, this is the employee first name and the employee last name, and then this is the dependent first name and dependent last name. But when you look at the table, how do you distinguish between what the employee name and the dependent name? So we will need to do better than this. So we have to add an alias so that we can specifically indicate that the first name is the employee's first name, and then this first name is dependent first name. So let's do that. So let me take down the magnifier, and then we can fix the ambiguity problem. So let me close the table for more space, and then we can turn off the output as well. Okay, so now we can say employees dot first name as employee's first name. So we'll bring the alias here, so as employee first name. Okay, then we'll do the same for the last name. So let's get to the last name. So employee last name, then we'll bring the alias, so as employee last name. Okay, then we'll repeat the same thing for the dependents. So let's say so I think the comma should be here rather. All right, now let's get to the dependent first name. So the dependent first name is here. Then we'll say as dependent first name. Okay, then let's look at the dependent last name as well. So we'll also say as dependent last name. Okay, so this is it. Let me change this part. Okay, so this will remove the ambiguity we saw the first time. So let's execute the code, and then you can see that we have what? Employee first name, employee last name, phone number, dependent first name, dependent last name, and then relationship and so on. So yeah, so this is much better than what the first table we created. Alright, so that is not all. We can still what? Also combine the names. Instead of saying that employee first name and then employee last name, we can just write the full name of the employee and then the full name of what? The dependent, okay? Yeah, so that is what we'll do next. Yeah, so let me do that below so that we'll have. So I think I can save this particular table here. Okay, so that once we are done with the second table, we can make the comparison. Okay. Yeah, so this time, let me take it all over again. Okay, so this time we are selecting employee dot what employee's first name, but because we want to put the names together, we have to use the concatenation function. Okay, so we'll call the concatenation function here. Okay, and then within that function we'll bring what? Employee dot dot first name. Then we'll put a space between what? The first name and then the last name. So the double quote with a space between it will what? Provide a space. Okay, yeah, so it means we are just putting an empty space as what? An entry parameter here. Then we'll have what? The employee dot what? Last name here. Okay, yeah, and so this is it, but this time we have to put what? An alias here as well. So as what? Employee's full name. So we'll say as what? So this should be as employee's full name. Okay, then let's also bring what? The employee's phone number. Okay, so I'll just put a comma here, then we'll just say phone number. Okay, then now let's bring what? The columns from what? The dependent table. So I can do that in the next line. So and then we will use what? The concatenation function as well here, because we are combining what? The dependent first name and last name to give us what? The dependent full name. So we'll say what? Concat. Yeah, so concatenate, and then we'll bring in what? Dependent this time. So dependent dot dependent first name, so first name. Okay, then what, put an empty space so that the names will not be what joined together, but there will be a space at least between the two names. So now we can bring what, the last name, but we have to indicate dependent first. You know, we are used to what, just writing the names of the columns without indicating the tables. So that is when you are working in one table. Yeah, but if you are working in what, more than one table, then you need to indicate the tables before you indicate the columns you want. So last name here. Okay, then we have to bring the alias. Okay, so as dependent what, full name. Okay, so let's get to the next line. I think I can zoom it in a bit so that we can have a full view. Okay, so now we can bring the relationship. Okay, so relationship, we shouldn't forget dependent dot relationship. Okay, so it's time for us to indicate our first table. So from our first table is what, employees. Then we'll bring the join we are using. So whether you are using the inner join, so for now we are using inner join, so we'll say inner join. Then the table we are what, joining it to, so that is what, inner join dependent. Yeah, so what it means is that we are joining what, employees table to what, to dependence table, and then we are using what, inner join to do that. So it means we are just calling the intersection between those two tables to be returned. Now we have to indicate the foreign key, so that is the field on which we are making the join. So on, yeah, we have what, employees dot employee ID. So employee ID, as we've shown earlier on, is found in both what, tables. So employee dot what, employee ID equal to dependent dot employee ID. So it's just like the foreign key. So, and then we can use that one to join the two tables together. All right. So let me break down everything into what, into the view area. So this is how the code looks like, and then we can what, put our delimiter at the end. So this is how the code look like. You are selecting concats employee dot employee first name, yeah, employees dot last name as what, employee's full name, then the employee phone number follows. Then we what, concatenate the dependent first name and last name as dependent full name. Then we'll bring what, the relationship from the dependence table, and then we'll indicate the tables we are selecting from. So the first table is what, employees table, and the join we are using is the inner join, and the second table is dependence table, and we are making the join on what, employees dot what, employee ID, and then that should be equal to a dependent dot employee ID. And the reason is that employee ID is found in what, both tables. So both what, the dependent table and then the employee table, they all have what, employee ID. So let's execute it and then we'll look at the difference. Okay, so you can see that we have a much more condensed table. Yeah, so compare it to this table. Okay, yeah, this table we indicated what, the first name and the last names separately. Yeah, but this new table we combine what, the first name and last name to give us the full name. Okay, Yeah, so this could be another way to answer the question. So that is for question 1. All right, so now I want us to go to question 2, and then look at the outer joints. Okay, so let's look at the outer joint here. Okay, so yeah, so there are some examples here that you can look at. So now we have the outer joint, and for the outer joints there are 3 types of outer joints. We have what we call the right outer joint, the left outer joint, and then the full outer joint. So sometimes you just hear left joint, right joint, yeah, and then full joint. It means outer joint. Okay, so this is the Venn diagram for the right outer joint, or the right joint. Okay, so the right outer joint returns all records or rows from from the right table, and from the left table it returns only matching records. Yeah, so it means if you are using the right outer joint, all the records in the right table, that is table 2, will be returned, and then the matching records in table 1, that will also be returned, or to the left, that will also be returned. And we have the syntax here. So select all from table 1, right outer join table 2 on table 1 dot column 1 equal to table 2 dot column 1. So this is the general syntax for the right outer join, or the right join. Yeah, in MySQL we'll be using right join. Okay, yeah, but in some other platforms you may be using right outer join. Yeah, but for us, our specific case, we'll be using right join. Okay, so now let's get back to the workbench, and then we'll implement the right join. Okay, so I'm going to move this up, and then we'll pick question 2. Now question 2 is asking us to create, okay, it's still dealing with dependents. Yeah, and okay, department and employees. So let's pick that, and then we can get to the workbench. So let me comment out the question. Okay. All right, so create a list of all departments and their employees. So that is what this particular question is asking us to do. Okay, already we know the employees table, we'll be dealing with it, and then we've not seen the department table yet, but we are aware of it. So the last time we showed all tables, we saw department table. So let me just repeat that. Okay, so you can see the tables there. So we have countries, departments, dependents, employees. So this time we are dealing with departments and then employees. We are asked to create a list of all departments and their employees. So it means we'll be joining these 2 tables. Okay, so let's begin to join our departments and then our employees table. But before that, we'll need to look at the records we have in the department table, because we are not familiar with it yet. So I'm going to select all from department, okay, so let's execute that. So these are all the records from the department, and then you can see that we have department ID. So let me just save the table so that we may be referring to it later on. So let's also just look at all the records from employees table, so that we can see if there is a foreign key. So from employees, okay, now this is the employees table, and then when you look at it, you'll see that we have department ID at the end, and then we have department ID at the beginning of the department table. So it means we have what? A foreign key, and then we can actually join those two tables. Without this particular what foreign key, we can't join the two tables. Okay, yeah, at least we can join them using what the outer joints or the inner joints. Yeah. All right, so now that we understand the tables, let's create the join between the tables such that we will list all departments and their employees. So we are going to select let's select departments. Yeah, so we'll be selecting department name. So that will be what department, yeah, departments dot department name. Yeah, so we should take note we are joining two tables, so the name of the table has to come before the field. So department dot department name. Yeah, so that is the only field we are taking from the department. Then let's also select the fields from the employees. Yeah, so let's look at the employees table, and then yeah, so if you are selecting employees, definitely you should be going for their names. So we'll also add the employees names here. So but we want to put the name together, so we'll just use concatenation. Yeah, so concat. So we'll have what employees dot first name, then we'll put some space using what the double quotes, and then with empty space between the double quotes, a comma. Then we'll bring the last name. Okay, yeah, so but that should be what employees dot what last name. Okay, so I think it's going out of our view area, so I can turn off what the navigator this time. So you can see that yeah, we've gotten to a point where we are turning off everything, and then we are only using the query pane for now. Okay, so now the navigator is also gone. Yeah, so now we have selected the department name and then the employee name. Okay, yeah, so that is what the question is requiring us to do. Yeah, then yeah, okay. So once we are done with the selection, so we have to indicate the table, the first table here. So from, yeah, this time the first table will be our department. So let me put that to the next line. So from department, okay. Then this time we are saying we'll use the right join. So right join. Right join, yeah, so which means that we'll return all the records in the employees and not what the department. So right join, yeah, because the department is to the left. Yeah, so if we want all the records in the department, then we'll have to use what the left join. Yeah, all right, so right join, yeah, but from the question itself, the left join will be appropriate. Okay, yeah, so let's do the right thing. So we say left join. Yeah, so left join employees. Okay, then we have to indicate the column on which we are what making the join, and that is what employee department ID. So we have what department dot department ID, then equal to employees dot department ID. ID. Okay, so this is it, and then yeah. Okay, so let's bring the delimiter at the end, and then we can make sure that there are no inconsistencies. The names in particular, it should be the exact names we are referring to. So create a list of all departments and their employees. So let's execute it, and then we'll see the outcome. Okay, so we have it here. So you can see the department name, administration. Let's use the magnifier at this point. Yeah, so you can see the department name, administration, and then the employee name is here, Jennifer, yeah, Hoyland, Michael, yeah, Hastings, and so on. So and there are departments names are indicated first. Yeah, but you can see that the headings are not really the best. We have concatenate here, which wouldn't make sense to non-programmers. Okay, yeah, so we have to fix that. So after the concatenation, we have to bring an alias here. So we just say as employee's full name, or employee, or you may even say employee name. So as employee name. Okay, so let's execute it once more. Okay, so now we have our department name and then employee name, but even the department name, there is an underscore there. So assuming we want to remove that underscore, we will have to bring an alias here as well. So as department. Okay, so let's execute it once more. Okay, so now you can see that we have our departments and then our employees. Okay, yeah. So I want us to experiment something. Let's try to also group them by their departments. Okay, so you may also just add group by department. Yeah, so group by department ID. Yeah, so that will be department dot department ID. So let's add it here. Okay, and then we should also bring department dot department ID to the first part of it. So I'm going to put it here as well. Let me take down the magnifier. Okay, so we are selecting the department name. So let's also select the department ID, because we are grouping it by department ID. Okay, so let's group it by department ID, but I think we can also group it by department name. Okay, so let's try the department ID, then we can bring the department name as well. Okay, yeah, so this one we can put an alias here as well. Okay, let's leave it that way. Department ID is fine. Okay, so we have a long code here. I'm going to execute the code. Yeah, so now we have department IDs, and then we have the department name and then the employee name here. Okay, so okay, so remove the department ID here, then we'll group it by department name and we will see what happens as well. So department of department name. So let's make it department name this time. Okay. All right. So yeah. So you can just see that it brought what one employee from each department. Yeah. So mostly the group by works with what count. So assuming it was a count we were doing, yeah. If it was a count we were doing, then it would be much more meaningful with a group by clause here. Okay, so let's do a count. Okay, yeah. So we are going to what select count. Yeah. So the count will be what counting the employees in the department. Okay, and then you are grouping them by what department. Yeah, so so the concatenation what of the first name of the employee will be what will be counting here. You know, mostly the counting we count employee ID, but we can count the employee name. Yeah, but this time self is a bit complex, but because the employee name is within what it is being concatenated. Yeah, so we are counting it in what in a concatenation function. Okay, so I'll simply what cut this part and then I'll bring the count. I'll bring the count before I paste it inside the count. Okay, so now we are selecting what count. Okay, and then within the count we have concatenated the name and then we are counting the concatenated name. Yeah, so that's what we have done. So so this time it wouldn't be employee's name, so this will be what, yeah, so this will be what number of employees. Yeah, so because it's a count, so we should change the name to what number of employees. Okay, and then we are grouping it by what department. Okay, so let's execute it to see. So you should be experimenting most of these things. Yeah, as you experiment you get to learn. Okay, yeah, so now you can see that the various departments have been listed, and then the number of what employees within each of those departments are indicated. So if you are to group them, then you should what be counting. Yeah, so admin, there's only one person there. Marketing has two. Let me use my magnifier. Okay, so administration department 1 employee, marketing 2, purchasing 6, human resource 1, shipping 7, IT 5, public relations 1, sales 6, yeah, executive 3, finance 6, accounting 2. So these are the departments and the number of employees within each department. Okay, so it's getting too long, so I'm going to end the video here, and then please subscribe and then turn on the notification button. I'll appreciate that a lot. And also there are 2 questions left, so let me pull down the magnifier and then we'll look at the questions that are left. Generate a report of employees and their work locations. So that is the next one. So you'll be dealing with what employees and then locations table here, and then the 4th question is asking you to generate a report indicating the locations and countries of the company. So you will be dealing with what locations and countries table. You are combining these 2 tables, and then you are generating what a report out of that. Okay, so this is the end, and then see you in our next video.